Hello, this is Greg, host of Super NES Podcast, and you're listening to the Super NES Podcast. What, you never heard of a guy pimping his own podcast before?
At $200, a Super Nintendo setup costs twice as much as the old system. For the money, the company promises better pictures, sound, and adventure. Now you're playing with power, superpower. You're the king, I tell you! The king!
Only for Super NES. You're listening to the SNES podcast with your hosts, Soulblazer and George.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Super NES Podcast, episode number 71 here for your listening pleasure. I am Greg, one of your regular co-hosts, joined as always by George, the other regular co-host.
That's me.
Who never has very much to say like this intro, that's okay.
I like banjos. Old men in space. What do you want from me?
well, there actually are no banjos in this game. That'd be kind of interesting, but some of the enemies kind of look like banjos, though. I will get into that. We are covering in this podcast a game that actually Fergus kind of jokingly suggested to us last time. Last time he was on the podcast. Something that's more infamous for its box cover, as George already alluded to, than actual gameplay. We're looking at the side-scrolling space shoot 'em up Phalanx, which was developed by Zoom and published by Kemco for Super NES in 1992. Neither George or I had played this game until this week, but we both knew about the game because I already had mentioned to. It's kind of infamous, like one thing and one thing only, pretty much. So let's get the elephant out of the room, like right away to start with. If you've not seen the box cover of like this game, the Super NES, it's unique. I'll give it that much. The box cover, the box art. The box art basically just shows a bearded elderly man sitting down somewhere, dressed in overalls, wearing a fedora, playing a banjo with his dog at his side. While in the background, you can just barely make out a futuristic spaceship flying by.
He's the pilot of that ship.
No, he's not, because
he plays the old man with the banjo.
No, you actually play somebody else. There's not very much plot in this game, but that one. But that's one of the few things that they do cover, which we'll get into. But yeah, this cover's attracted a lot of like notoriety over the years. The Angry Video Game Nerd did a series a while back on the most infamous / bad video game box art over the years, and this game made his top 10.
I want to say the Master System games do not count, so he got some cheap shots in. That's not fair.
IGN recently did a top 25 countdown on their website for the most awesome cover for video games. Awesome just being a catch-all term for basically anything under the sun. So, and this game came number 5th, like in that list. So, the reason for the box art's actually pretty simple. George, you happen to research this like I have, but you probably have a pretty good guess as to what they're going for here, like this unique box cover. So why don't you share your theory?
It's probably marketing. If you put an old guy with a banjo on the cover of a game cart, you're gonna say, "What the heck is this game?" and probably buy it.
And you're pretty much correct. The box art designers were reviewed about this years later, and they admitted pretty much they'd chosen that theme deliberately to attract the customer of something original. Because this game came out during a time period in which side-scrolling shooters were all the rage. And they want to do something to make this game stand out, like on that sea of sea of shooters out there. So, well, on that point, they succeeded at least. So, because anybody who was alive during the time period, the early 90s, does remember that along with a huge fighting game explosion, there was also a huge explosion of space shooters. Genesis in particular was very thick with shooters. There are a ton of good shooters on the Genesis. Super NES, not so much for selection, but there are some good ones on there. Gradius 3 we've already covered in a past podcast. That was the launch title. We've also already covered UN Squadron, which certainly has a lot of elements of side-scrolling shooting, shooting to it. And there were some other games too, but this is definitely one of the more. There weren't a lot of side-scrolling space shooter options on the Super NES compared to Genesis. So this is a unique game also in that respect, for that. But actually, this game is actually a port. It originally came out in Japan in 1991 on a system that George and I have talked about in a past podcast on the other show that we do. It originally came out for the very popular Japanese computer, the Sharp X68000.
Oh, the Sharp.
Yes, very popular Japanese computer during this time period. Very good for game playing, as evidenced by all the games that came out for it. So. This game got ported. So this game got ported to Super NES the following year. It came out in Japan in August of 1992, and in North America in October of 1992. No PAL release like this game, but it did get but the game did get re-released twice. It also came out for the Game Boy Advance in 2001. And that version did get a worldwide release. In that version, they changed the box cover to give it a more prominent spaceship image.
Ooh.
To avoid the problems they had earlier.
Should have been a dog playing a banjo.
And this game, at least in Japan, also got remade and re-released as part of the WiiWare service in 2009. So yeah,
wow.
But let's talk a little bit about let's talk a little bit about the companies involved, because we haven't featured games before in the past in this podcast by games done by these companies. Zoom is a Japanese developer that dates back to 1988, like Japan. They're mostly known for doing stuff in Japan. They were a big supporter of the Sharp computer, and they also published a lot of games for Japanese consoles and systems. Not too many of their games that come over stateside. Their games over here, which are probably most famous and most well known, is Lagoon for the Super NES, which is an early role-playing action game, very similar to Zelda, that I do want to cover at some point in this podcast because I have nostalgia like that game. And also the very weird but admittedly fun Mr. Mosquito series, which came out with the PS2.
Oh man, that's popped up a lot for me recently, which is really weird.
They're not bad games. They're kind of fun, actually. They're definitely unique.
Mr. Mosquito is definitely something we have to cover. Not on this podcast. The other podcast.
Right. So Kemco, the publisher, dates back to 1984. They are actually a subsidiary of a big engineering company. During this time period, it was common for well-established companies to spin off video game divisions, try to capture a piece of the pie. Over here in the States, for example, before the great video game crash, Quaker Oats had a video game division. And Fox Interact, Fox Movies, the movie studio company also had a video game division. So it was common for companies back then to spin off divisions, to make games, and they're still owned. They're still a subsidiary of the company today. So for a time, Kemco was merged with another company called Sika. Kemco Sika published a whole bunch of games for the NES, Super NES, before the company split again. Kemco's still around today. They're mostly
They
known
make
for
Android games, or mobile, I should say.
mobile
They make
games primarily. Yes, RPGs.
RPGs. Yep.
Primarily.
There was a Humble Bundle that had a bunch of them. So, like, I have on my tablet, I have a bunch of Kemco RPGs that I have not even touched. It's like, oh, these are gonna take a while to play.
Yeah, Kemco to Americans are probably best known for being the publishers behind the famous Mac adventure games, which later got ported to the NES as Shadowgate, Uninvited, and Deja Vu.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay.
And they also had great success like the Top Gear for a series.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh well.
So, but yeah. So the game itself. So once you get past that interesting box cover, once you get past some of the history of this, most of the story of the game is contained in the manual. There's not really too much told to you in the like in the opening scenes. It's your basic generic sci-fi cookie cutter story. The year 2279, a planetary research project is investigating the alien planet. The alien planet of Delilah. An emergency transmission is sent shortly afterwards, and then all of a sudden a hostile force shows up and starts to they're attacking things. So you were sent in as a pilot, like in a prototype advanced fighter. Your name is Wink Ballfield.
What?
Yeah. In the Game Boy version, they wisely renamed him to Rick. So.
Oh, there you go.
You are flying. Also, if you thought that was chuckle-worthy, George, get ready.
No.
The operation, you are assigned to Operation Climax.
This is perfect. This is great. Yep. This has everything to do with a banjo and a man playing it. I love it.
In the brand new experimental space fighter, the A144 Phalanx. So because the game's full name in Japan is like Phalanx A144 Space Fighter. So they just shortened the Phalanx like the North American release.
Didn't they change the name to that for the Game Boy release?
They did too, yes.
Okay.
So anyway, this is your pretty typical shooter of the time period. Like I said, side scrolling. There are eight stages altogether in the game. Each stage is a boss. You can choose 3 difficulty levels out of the main menu when you start the game.
So this game defaults on easy.
Yes.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also a hidden 4th difficulty level, which again, the translation. It's a good thing this game does not have a lot of English because the translation choices that they use for this game is questionable to say the least.
I mean, this was a time where translating wasn't super easy.
Yeah. You can access that. You can access that that different difficulty level by punching a code, and you'll never guess what they call that level.
Phalanx?
That would be pretty obvious, but no. Funny.
Really?
Yes.
Oh boy.
So like I said, the good thing is not too much
What
English in this game.
What they didn't tell you is if you beat the game on funny mode, you get to fight the guy with the banjo.
Well, you do get a surprise if you beat the game funny mode. We will cover that toward the end of the podcast because it's interesting. So, your other options available in the main menu is you can also select how many credits that you want. To be able to decide how many times that you can continue in the game. And you can also you can also remap the controller to your liking. So that's nice. I always appreciate games that allow that. Yeah. So that's a nice touch.
A lot of more games need to do that, or a lot of modern games need to do that now.
Right.
Yeah.
So, So anyway, once the game starts, you're given like a very quick intro screen saying what the name of the stage is, like a whatnot. It's your pretty typical shooter, and you're just going around shooting bad guys, and collecting power-ups. What is kind of unique for this game, at least this time period, is that you actually have a hit gauge. You can take 3 hits. 3 hits in this game before your ship gets destroyed, which is reflected by a gauge, set by a gauge at the bottom left of the screen.
Yeah, it's almost like a UN Squadron type of thing.
A little bit, yes, but UN Squadron at least. But UN Squadron had a full...
You can regenerate that last hit.
Right, yeah.
So.
UN Squadron had a full energy bar, though, where certain enemies took more damage off of that than others. This one here, it doesn't matter what touches you, if you get hit, then you lose a bar like right away.
And you can regenerate those, but I think you have to get pickups, right?
Right, yep.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of pickups. We'll cover that here in just a moment. So you are allowed to have 3 weapons in your ship, like 3 weapons equipped in your ship, like one time. You can swap between them. If you're getting further weapons past that point, however, then you'll lose the weapon that you're currently using. So let's be aware of that. You can also sacrifice. This is another interesting design choice. You can sacrifice a weapon like at one time to produce a smart bomb effect, which will clear out the screen of enemies, do severe damage to a boss, and also freeze up a weapon slot for you. So.
What I really like is you can change your speed on the fly.
Yes, that's also.
There's 3 different speeds of slow, and then there's the medium setting, which it starts on, and then there's the fast one.
There's some very unique gameplay options in this game that you really wouldn't expect for a game at this time period. I
really like using fast, but the problem is when I play games like this, I really prefer a mouse for it.
Yeah.
But hey, it's whatever. I guess just keep changing the speed.
Well, joystick might work a bit better than the pad, possibly, but...
I wanted to use my SNES arcade stick, but I don't know where I placed the USB adapter for SNES controllers, so that wasn't happening, because I don't own a copy of this game. Which, if it's cheap enough, maybe I should go ahead and buy.
So let's see, what else can we say about the weapons? The primary difference between the difficulty levels in the game is to just pretty much set the number of bullets being fired at you by enemies. Unless you're playing on funny difficulty, and then it really cranks up the difficulty by a factor of 10. But
it's so difficult, it's funny.
Yeah. One of the complaints I have with this game is that enemy shots are often hard to see. I think they're not. A lot of times the shots are kind of like a weak orange/brownish color, and they're kind of small, so they don't really stand out very well against the backgrounds.
Yeah, so sometimes it's just hard to pick out where the bullets are.
Right. So that's definitely a complaint I have about the game. So since we're talking about a graphical effect, let's go into the graphics. The graphics are a mixed bag. I mean, these graphics are pretty typical of what you'd expect for an early Super NES game.
I thought they were all good.
Well, for the time period, they were pretty good. I mean, there's some bending scrolling going on in the background. Yeah. Some stages are definitely graphically more impressive than others. It's like they spend more time on designing some stages than other ones for some reason. So, which is strange. But so like I said, there's some scrolling going on in the background that's pretty good. So, cover choices are limited, but not bad for what they are. I mean, the overall effects are, like I said, overall, I thought the graphics were quite good for for another Super NES game. They're certainly not cutting edge. There were games coming out in 1992 that definitely did graphics better than this game did, but what you're doing in the game, they're fine. They get the job done. The only real main complaint I have, is your ship. I don't like your ship design. It's too small, and it looks terrible. I think your ship looks so wimpy.
I think it's all right.
But It doesn't have the cool aesthetic that the R-Type fighter or like the Vic Viper from Gradius does.
No, but hey, it's a Phalanx.
Yeah. Again, where they got the name from, I have no idea, except for the fact it's just like cool sounding. So, but meh. So, the enemies of the game are pretty good graphically speaking. I think. You won't recognize what most of them are, but you're not supposed to. Enemy design in this game I thought was pretty good. There's some. Again, it's a mixed bag. There's some enemies you're like, oh, every game has these. Like some enemies you're like, what the heck are these things? So, yeah, I mean, they're definitely interesting. At least you can tell they tried to do some like unique designs enemy attacks, and that goes also to the bosses too. I think most of the bosses are stuff that's been done before, but they add a wrinkle or two to it to kind of make the boss fight unique. As far as like you have to remember to like most shooters, this game relies heavily upon memorization. You have to remember where to go on the screen to avoid attack, like where the weak point is, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the enemy design like overall, George?
I like the bosses.
Yeah, bosses are cool.
Was it the first boss with the one that tries to eat you?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
and then I was like, wow, this is easier than other first boss battles I've had in these kinds of games. So.
Yeah.
Just took a lot of patience because I died before, so.
Oh
I
yeah.
didn't have powered up weapons.
The game even at easy difficulty level, it's a good challenge. I mean, like, I was able to go through it first time before using all my credits, but the game's not a pushover like an easy difficulty level either. So most shooter fans, I think, will be comfortable starting at normal. Then once you go to the game, you can crank it up to hard or use the cheat code for funny. But I know that's what it's called. I don't know what to tell you.
It's funny.
Yes, it is. So, so yeah, I mean, the graphics are good. I think for a game this time period. I mean, I think the graphics for R-Type and Gradius 3 are probably a bit better, but
no doubt.
But I do like the stages you go through in the game are pretty cool, graphically speaking, because you have a water stage, a biological stage, a rock cavern stage. Typical fare for shooters, but they do look pretty good.
Yeah, they put effort into it. That's what matters.
Music for this game it's fine. I mean, like a trademark of a shooter is a shooter like is need for a good soundtrack, and the soundtrack's not great, but it's fine for what it is too. I think. I mean, it's nothing. It's
nothing special. You're right.
Yeah,
it's still cool. It still fits there.
Yeah, it fits.
Yeah.
It sounds good. It's fine for what it is. I mean, it's nothing great, nothing you won't be listening to afterwards, but...
Yeah, it's not something you would go and search for just to listen to, like, in the background or something, but it's, while you're playing the game, it's definitely fitting, and it's cool.
Yeah, so... Sound effects are the same way. Sound effects are typical shooter sound effects. I mean, nothing really spectacular there, but they're fine. They get the job done.
Yep.
So let's talk about the weapons. There's some.
They go pew pew.
Yes, they do go pew. Well. They also go pew pew, and they also make your enemies go boom boom. So, my favorite weapon in the game, the L for the laser, gives your ship.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, give your ships like two laser, by default two laser beams. All these weapons
lasers are always great in these games.
Yeah, all these weapons can be upgraded. If you pick up additional Ls, for example, as you go through the game, you upgrade the power of the laser. Eventually, fully powered, you can also shoot behind you as well, which is great. So,
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Oh, all right, awesome.
Yeah. So, H is homing, your typical homing. Your homing weapon. Upgrading this allows the options which also the base weapon causes two options to spin around your ship. Upgrading the weapon causes those options to fire their own homing balls also to upgrade your firepower. So the homing's pretty good for most stages. I think it's not very good against bosses, but at least early in the game, the homing weapons are good one to do if you're trying to get the hang of the game. Ease Energizer. This is kind of like a charged energy bolt.
It throws batteries.
Yes, pretty much. So,
I'm more of a Duracell man. I'm sorry, go on.
You hold down the button and shoot off a big old ball of energy, pretty much.
I didn't like this one at all.
It's good against boss fights. Fully equipped, this is a devastating weapon used against bosses. Particularly later on in the game. So that's the main advantage that it has. The R is the ricochet weapon. This one's a bit harder to describe. It basically causes two options to show up like on ship again, except this time they travel in opposing directions. They change your beam gun, I guess, your shooter, to a green ball of energy, which seems to do a moderate deal of damage. Not as much as the Energizer, probably equivalent to the laser in damage. I think it looks like. So, upgrading this weapon like where it shines, because it causes the balls of energy to fire forward diagonally up and down as well, and they bounce off enemies and ceilings. Walls and ceilings, like hence the name. So, if you're willing to give it time and fully upgrade this thing, this is a great weapon to use because it really can be used to clear out tight spaces.
I really prefer the lasers. Probably in every shooter that has them.
Mm.
I don't know. I just like.
You can also get 3 different types of missiles, which are magically called A-type, B-type, and C-type. A-type launches homing missiles. B-type launches forward-firing rockets that don't detonate and just simply damage all enemies that they touch or move through. And the C-type launches guided missiles that blow up on impact.
You know what I hate about when you get an upgrade in certain games? Sometimes when you get to level 2 of the weapon or whatever, it'll do that thing where now it shoots two shots, but each one is at 45 degrees, like a 45 degree angle. And it's like, how am I supposed to hit anything like this? Now I need to do extra work because I can't shoot in front of me. I have to shoot at an angle.
At least the advantage of this game, yeah. No, I agree with you definitely. And this game suffers like some of that also. But at least this game, you can store 3 weapons, so you can always just simply take one weapon, put it to the side, play on, and then when you get another capsule, change your weapon real quick and grab that capsule. It's
like Tetris when you want to hold on to a piece.
But yeah, there's also hidden areas that you can find in the game as you go through that are just like Boku power-ups for you. So we'll talk about how to get those power-ups toward the end of the podcast. But so yeah, that's pretty much your weapons available to you. The last thing you have available to you is a power capsule. This is your combination of healing and weapon enhancement power-up. It will upgrade you, upgrade all your weapon systems by 1 level, and will also give you 1 point of ship health back. Obviously, these are rare, so grab these beauties when you see them.
Yeah.
So the game difficulties ramps up pretty well, I think. As you go through the stages, it's not terribly long. You can get when you get decent at the game, you can go through the game in about an hour game time, which I think is pretty good length for a shooter of this type. There are, like I said, credits that you get to start to continue the game with, because the credits kind of operate you start off with. Oh, you can also change the number of ship lives that you have to start off the game with. So I think 5 is the most you can have at one point. So we'll start the game off with. You can obviously get extra lives. It's like, this is typical. This is typical arcade style point system. Extra life given to you every 30,000. Extra life given to you like every 30,000 points, etc., etc. So and then like when you use a credit to bounce you back to the beginning of the stage. But like I said, the stages themselves don't take that long to fly through.
No, they're actually kind of short.
Yeah, and they're all pretty much the same length too, which is curious.
Right.
Yeah. So, let's see. What else can I say about this game? As far as gameplay goes. Well, we can get to our final opinions here, I guess. Then,
if you want.
It's, I'm a big fan of shooters. I obviously love this genre like quite a bit. I had fun playing this. I probably would have had more fun playing it back in the day as opposed to now, but, it's, for the Super NES, it's pretty good, I think. Like I said, the Super NES did not have a ton of side-scrolling shoot 'em ups like the Genesis did, so the selection on here is more limited. The Genesis had a better processor, faster processor at least. So these games require like a good deal of speed to be able to make them play well. You also took experienced programmers to really be able to crank the Super NES out to be able to get this. There's something about gameplay that's important to mention. Very little slowdown. This game, for the most part, is silky smooth.
I've noticed some slowdown, but
there's a little bit,
right.
But there's not that much.
Yeah.
I mean, for how many enemies on the screen at once at certain points and how much action's going on, you'd expect it to kind of bog down a bit more, because Gradius 3 definitely bogs down some when there's like equivalent stuff on the screen.
It does. Yep, it does.
And like R-Type 3 also suffers that same problem. So, but yeah, this game, the programmers seem to know what they were doing, so there's very little slowdown. It's very impressive. It kind of shows that the Super NES can do a game of this nature, just like it's programmed well.
Yeah.
So anyway, having said that, this game is, for the Super NES, this game is good. Considering the limited library that the system has for games of this type, it does something. The programmers try to do some unique things with the game. I think some are bigger successes than others, but in some ways they're trying to be like innovative and trying to put in some different elements to make it stand out from the crowd. Besides, like that box cover. So, but as far as ranking it overall with 16-bit shooters, however, it kind of falls down toward the lower end of the category, I think. There's just simply not enough new or challenging here to warrant constant repeat regular gameplay. Having said that, I think this game is very good for shooter fans. If you're a shooter fan and can never play this game, if you're only aware of it because of the notoriety that the cover gets, check it out. You'll probably have some fun with it.
It's not greatest, but it's still a good game.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's a decent shooter.
Yeah.
I'm more of a fan of the genre than you are, George, so what do you think about the game?
It's pretty cool. Like, when we talked about the whole speed toggle thing, like, I feel like that might be necessary for, shooters that, for this kind of era where there's only, like, D-pads and not, like, analog sticks, because then you can make more precise movements when you want to. And I haven't seen anything like that with games of this era before, which is really cool. It's a neat little feature that you can play around with.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's nice. It's nice to look at. Not the best thing in the world, but it still has some looks. The sound is good. Not the best. It was fun playing this because I wanted to see what the bosses were. And it has a good feel to it. I'm not that great at these kinds of games, but I tried. There are those little bonus areas that you can get to, and at first it like confused me. Like, oh, there's a bunch of pickups, and I ran into one. I was like, wait, what's going on here? So you have to shoot the pickup. It was really weird, but just randomly finding bonus areas is really cool, especially when I don't know what's going on. Like, wait, why am I being teleported? Oh, this is a bonus area.
Yes.
I didn't know how I accessed that, but all right. So it's fun. It's a cool game.
There are 2 secret areas that I'm aware of, like in the game.
Yeah.
The first one's in level 2, which is the underwater area.
Yeah.
There's a red box, like near the top or bottom of the screen. If you touch it, they will go into that secret area. There's actually a second secret area later on in the game, because the first one you can access from the red box at the top of the screen, and the other one you can access like the bottom of the screen. So, you just pretty much have to. There's different things to do, like George was saying, in each secret area to be able to get the power-ups. So part of the trick is figuring out you figure out like what to do.
Yeah.
So, and then the last stage, the final mission also has 2 secret areas. You access those areas by going to a yellow circle with some gadgets around it. So.
Right.
There are a bunch of codes available in the game, games I mentioned before. There is a code to give you extra lives, and it continues if you want to. I'm not going to go into the actual what you do on this because this is easily available like online. I just want to make people available, to let people know that these are available if you want them. There's a level select you can do. You can also. And there's also that code that I mentioned before for unlocking that hidden insane difficulty setting like in the game. So, you might be surprised to know, George, this game actually goes for pretty cheap pricing on eBay. Probably because of the fact that people are more familiar with it because of the cover than the actual game itself. There's no shortage of listings available like this game. There are 41 copies of the game that are recently sold, 22 copies of the game that are currently available for sale, including curiously enough some good examples of like the original ads for the game that appeared in comic books at the time. So
Really?
Yeah, the slogan in the ad is "Far Out." Far being spelled P-H-A-R. Get it?
Oh no.
Your typical 90s stuff. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, you can have these prices include shipping. Carts sold anywhere from $12 to $23.
Wow, that's not bad.
Yeah, not that bad at all. CIB is a bit more pricey, but still it's not that bad. $36 to $70.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
So overall, glad I played the game finally after all these years. It's a decent shooter for what it is. I really do admire the fact that it has some very innovative concepts, especially for the time that it came out. Not the best shooter in the system, but not the worst either. Like I said, shooting fans are definitely recommended to check this game out and see if you enjoy it. Especially if you've snubbed the Super NES because it's NES for like the genre, because Genesis has so many more and better games out there for it.
Yep.
That's it. Yup.
Yep. I mean,
okay.
What do I add? It's a cool game.
And that's all that George has to say about this, folks.
Yep. I could have just said that at the beginning and then just not said anything else.
Yeah, pretty much.
Great, thanks.
I'm kidding, of course, but...
No, I know.
Did you beat the game? How hard did you get in it?
No, I didn't beat it.
Yeah.
Geez, how far did I get? With the limited time this week because of things going on in life. Maybe like a third of the way. Like that.
I'm curious to play the GBA version now, because I didn't know there was a port made to the GBA. So I'm wondering... how that version looks.
It's the same game, right?
It's the same game, but I imagine it probably plays a little bit smoother and probably on like a bit better than the GBA. Plus the portable factor. The portable factor like is always nice.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
you gotta play it on that SP to get the backlight.
Yes.
Unless you have a modded one.
Well, actually, there were 2 versions of the SP. I had the original one that you had satellites. which were fine. I mean, it worked great. I mean, obviously it didn't work quite as well as the backlight did, but it was fine for what it was.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's better than like a Game Boy Light or something.
oh yeah,
Where it's like one of those, like, basically taking the insides of like glow watches from the time. It's so weird.
yeah. We're a little bit off topic. That's okay. Yeah, yeah.
We're talking about Nintendo stuff, right?
To this day, the GBA SP is still my favorite Game Boy system, hands down, because I just love that thing. It's like it's small, it's cute, it's portable. It folds over. It folds over. It folds over like it folds over. Like that easy to carry case. The backlit version is beautiful as far as like contrast and light goes. The only drawback is you need to have the adapter to be able to use the headphones.
Yeah, that's a weird thing about it.
That's companies wanting to buy accessories to.
So I just realized this. This is a problem before its time because now we have phones that are not coming with headphone ports.
Right.
It's like, huh. Anyway, not to get any more sidetracked here.
Yeah, there should be a Game Boy podcast. I'd love for there to be a Game Boy podcast because I certainly have a lot of history like that system, and there's a lot of great games out for it.
I'm not starting one, Greg.
I'm not saying that you should. I'm just saying somebody should. But
wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, somebody who has a lot more familiarity and history with the system because the Game Boy. The Game Boy can be expensive to collect for too. I mean, it's not just all Nintendo pricing products are kind of you're kind of going up. You're going up pricing right now, so including the Game Boy. There's so many systems and so many variations out there for it that it kind of makes it harder to collect for.
I say buy Chinese knockoff consoles and collection cards.
Mm-hmm. You could, I suppose, but the quality of those is dubious at best.
That's not true. I bought a Game Boy Color from a Chinese site, and it has a backlight on it, and it is actually a little bit bigger than a Game Boy Color, and it is still great.
That's something else that's a big problem, like for the Game Boy, the Game Boy library. Mass counterfeiting of games. You got to be careful if you buy a game like online.
Oh yeah, I go for those counterfeits though because they're cool.
But
and they're cheaper.
Whereas with the Super NES, it's really only been the most, the fan translated like in the really rare games that have been like that have been counterfeited over the years.
Yeah.
Like Earthbound, for example, was notorious like being like counterfeited. But Chrono Trigger also, just like the really valuable, like in demand, popular games.
Of course. So you can make it for less and sell for a big profit.
Right.
I hate when people do that.
But still for less money than what a real copy goes for.
Right.
But at least those
people have been getting up and up on that stuff.
Yeah. Plus those games are available in other formats, formats these days too, so that helps.
Oh yeah, if you want to play Chrono Trigger, you could play it on the PlayStation.
Yep, there's also the very good remake that came up with the DS.
That's right. I had a sealed copy of that and I gave it away.
You gave it away?
Yeah.
That goes for like pretty good bucks these days.
Yeah. This was around the time where it was like not too expensive. So.
Yeah. It's gotten a lot pricier, like pricier recently, but
I don't care.
Anyway, but yeah. So next week, or I should say next episode, we're going from one infamous game to a more obscure game. This is one I have a lot of history and affection for, and I probably I probably had to bribe George to be able to get him to agree to cover this like in the podcast, but it's certainly a very interesting game at least.
And they're still making games in this series, which is
yes,
crazy.
They are. Yep. So because this series has always been this series is one of those series. There's always been it has always been more popular in Japan than in the West. For obvious reasons, because we're going to be covering the Super NES port of Nobunaga's Ambition in the next episode. So, no shock, a game based upon a famous Japanese figure is more popular in Japan, right?
Oh, of course.
But yeah, this is This is just simply a slightly enhanced version of the original version, like the original like NES game, with some better graphics and music and some extra options, that kind of stuff. But it's also one of the few games that supports the Super NES mouse. So, but
oh, you gotta remind me about that, so I don't play with the controller.
Well, it operates fine like the controller. I've done it myself that way
I hate
all
going
these
through
years.
menus
But
with the controller.
the menus are pretty minimal of this game, though. But we'll get into it next time. So, but anyway. Thank you again, everybody, for listening to us. We very much appreciate it. We are a proud member of both the Throwback Network and Retro Junkies podcast networks, where you can find a lot of other great retro-themed podcasts, both gaming and non-gaming related. We have a Facebook page. Please come and check us out. You can check us out there and leave us comments, suggestions, etc. You can also find us on iTunes. A review on there, like, we very much appreciate it. And if you have any questions, comments, or etc., you can feel free to email me directly at the SNES podcast at yahoo.com. George, where can they reach you at, and what are the podcasts that you cover?
Oh boy, so you can find me on Twitter at Mr. Chivas at MISTURCHEF. Fun times on Twitter. You can look for my other podcasts that I do. Greg and I do PlayStation Power, not family friendly. We cover PlayStation 2 games. You can also check out Master System Masterpieces, which is part of the Retro Junkies network. We cover Master System games, if that wasn't, apparent. Wasn't obvious to me. And then I also do the Box Fort, which is super not family friendly. And we just talk about stuff there. That's about it.
Okay, sounds good. So as always, it's been great podcasting with you, George.
Of course.
We have an anniversary episode coming up pretty soon, the 75th episode. So we should talk about doing something special like for that one.
Dance party. Oh wait, how do you see that on audio podcast?
No, we should look into something like pretty unique or different, or kind of off the beaten path, because it's kind of fun to cover those the anniversary episodes. Like we looked at the accessories for the system for the 50th episode. So, but alrighty, as always, folks, we very much appreciate your support and listening to us. Hope to. Well, I can't say see, I can't say hear.
Hope you will listen to us next time.
Yes, that works. and on that note, I think I should cut out on my head. So, good night, all.
Banjos
for the win.
Nintendo controls 80% of the video market. But no matter how you play the game, or which game you play, things definitely have come a long way since Pac-Man. Now you're playing with power. Super power.